Is Murder World the worst idea to kill a superhero or the best idea? Let's find out together. Hello and welcome to Kevin's Commentary on Comics. We are diving in to the second part of our two-part story involving Spider-Man and Captain Britain. They're in Murder World. What more you gotta say? Marvel Team Up number 66, Murder World. Published February 1978. Writer, Chris Claremont. Artist, John Byrne. Inker, Dave Hunt. Okay, so our heroes last issue had the obligatory hero fight introduction because if two heroes don't know each other, that's what they do. At the end of the issue, both heroes get trapped by a garbage truck of all things, and well, the issue will begin now, but let's just take a look at that cover. Obviously, they're trapped in some sort of pinball machine, and oh, hey, by the way, to all you youngsters out there, a pinball machine is kind of like Fortnite, except it's a real machine. There aren't any skins involved, and you generally don't kill anyone. In fact, the worst you can do, perhaps, is hit a tilt, which maybe is what our heroes do. So let's not tarry another moment, okay? And let's get into the story. Now, Spidey and Captain Britain wake up encased in clear, presumably unbreakable glass in a rather fancy room, I guess. I mean, let's take a look at that lamp. Now, either our heroes got miniaturized, or that's one huge cornucopia lamp. Now, it doesn't take long for us, the readers, to see what is going on. The villain, known only as Arcade, has Cap and Spidey trapped in a giant pinball machine, just like on the cover. So based on the computer board that we see in front of Arcade, we can assume the guys are still full-sized and not miniature, but wouldn't that have been more cool? I mean, Arcade playing an actual pinball machine with the heroes stuck inside the balls? Well, missed opportunity by Claremont, but maybe it is reasonable. I mean, you give Arcade a shrinking gun, and then you wonder why he goes through all this trouble to kill them when he could just step on them. Although, maybe you still wonder why he's going through all this when he had them unconscious and could have just, shot them. Well, it's comics. We also find out that Arcade has captured the two because the Magia, Marvel's criminal group, has narrowed down a group of about 50 people who could be Captain Britain. And of course, Arcade hit it off with the first guy on the list and also got Spider-Man to boot. What a fun time for him. Now, Arcade launches the two into the game and they get bounced around and electrified by the bumpers. Even Spidey wonders why his captor is going through all this trouble when he had them captured in the garbage truck. Just then, Spidey is saved from going into the dead ball slot by a flipper, and he gets a second wind and busts out of the glass sphere. He helps Captain Britain out. Now, I should point out here, in the last issue, Captain Britain had his star scepter that allowed him to fly, set up force fields, and may have had other powers, but we'll never know about them because that scepter is neither seen nor mentioned by anyone in this issue at all. I found this to be a bit crazy. Now, because I care about you, dear listener, I did some research. And apparently, this star scepter was only used, maybe a handful of times, and only as a quarterstaff. Now, while it did allow flight, it only did so for about 15 minutes at a time. And other than the aforementioned force field, that was about it. What a waste. I really liked that star scepter. And so I guess it doesn't matter that they're not mentioning it in this issue because it's basically useless and would have been of zero help. I mean, I would have preferred it if the Star Scepter acted a little bit like Thor's hammer, and, Captain Britain would be like, "To me, my Star Scepter," and comes right into his hand. But it doesn't work that way, so there you go. Anywho, the boys get their bearings just as a giant ball comes at them and pops out the ever-deadly spikes. But guess what? It wasn't real. It was just a hologram to scare the heroes as trapdoors beneath both of them open and they fall in separate directions. Now, a couple things here. Isn't it convenient that Spidey and Cap were standing on those trap doors? And second, if they were standing on the trap doors, why was the fake spiked ball even necessary? No, it really wasn't necessary. But hey, again, on the other hand, this is a comic and visual action is required. So while I have just spent 30 seconds potentially complaining about this, I actually didn't have a problem with it. So the joke's on you, maybe? What am I doing? Back to our heroes. They fall down separate chutes where Captain Britain lands on his feet and the star of the book, Spider-Man, lands on his butt. Typical Parker luck. We focus on Cap's predicament first. We see his girlfriend, Courtney Ross, who was apparently captured last issue? Maybe? I mean, it's not real clear, or at least it's not clear to me when this happened. Anyway, she's trapped in a capsule in a giant crane game. Again, a giant crane game. I think Arcade really could have saved a lot of money if he did employ a shrinking ray of some sort. Maybe something to think about for the future. So Cap heads to save his love, but passes by funhouse mirrors, which immediately turn into robots with powers that reflect their reflections. That's some great wordplay right there. The tall version of Cap can stretch, while the short and bulky one apparently has super strength. Now Cap makes short work of them, however, and goes to save his Lady Courtney. Meanwhile, back to Spidey. So Cap gets funhouse mirror robots, and Spidey gets a quick draw McGraw knockoff Kid Cyborg. So just like Cap, Spidey takes the kid out pretty easily and is immediately attacked by a squadron of spaceships, I guess. Kind of look like spaceships. They're shooting at him. So Spidey is momentarily confused by the mini war going around him, but then realizes, oh, wait a minute. He does have a brain, and he finally figures out where the wall of the tunnel is and rips it open. He sneaks into a maintenance shaft where he starts sneaking around and realizes he really doesn't know how to just sabotage the place because his training is more in biology and not in electronics. Although he's built quite a number of gadgets over his career, not the least of which are his web shooters, seems like he could have doped out some of this. Back to Captain Britain, where he has really gotten into hot water. Literally. Well, maybe not hot water, but just as Cap gets to the scoop crane game, the chamber seals shut and water begins pouring in. Now, I don't really know the temperature of the water. I do think it would be a nice touch if Arcade had actually heated it. But hey, he can't afford a shrink ray machine. He's probably not going to splurge for the hot water heater it would take to heat this water. He's obviously a cheapskate. Now, I gotta say, this was actually kind of fun. Captain Britain's got to save his girlfriend, trying to play one of the hardest arcade games ever known before he drowns. It's a tough one. Now back at the villain control room, Arcade's assistants are telling him that Spidey is missing and there are malfunctions occurring everywhere. Arcade, who is naturally having a blast, just yells at them to deal with it because he's busy. But busy doing what? The water is running and it's filling up, and all he really has to do is just kind of wait for it to fill up and Captain Britain drowns. He doesn't have to control anything else. I mean, it seems like he could multitask a bit here. What about those malfunctions the assistants were talking about? What's happening there? Well, you guessed it. It's Spidey randomly breaking things. One of the things he breaks is the control arm to the crane game that Captain Britain is using. Really makes Cap's job a bit harder. By the way, I love Byrne's touch here with the water perspective. Now, Spidey is very close to getting into Arcade's control room, but Arcade quickly opens the door next to it to reveal Captain Britain's room, where he's stuck trying to free his girlfriend. So you gotta ask yourself, well, why did Arcade do that? He had to know Spidey was just going to jump in and help Cap. Seems like a better plan would have opened some other door to lead Spidey in a different direction. But no, he didn't do that. Now Spidey gets Cap free, and they both manage to free Cap's girlfriend. Of course, they don't have a lot of time because Arcade releases some sort of gas into the chamber. And by the way, Cap's hair is instantly dried by the time they free his girlfriend. That must be another part of his powers, that magical hair drying power. Unfortunately, Arcade has become reckless and his machines overload, causing explosions everywhere. Spidey manages to rip apart another wall, and the three jump into the hole regardless of the massive stink that's coming from it. Turns out they were in a sewer, and they do make it to street level conveniently in front of a cop car. Captain D. Wolf, the unofficial supporting character of Marvel Team Up, arrives and saves the heroes from getting arrested. Now, Captain D. Wolf explains that the Maggia had put out $1 million contract on Captain Britain, but some quote-unquote lone wolf got to their top hierarchy first and shot them all up. So wait, who did that? Now, I went back to the previous issue. There was that one woman who was monitoring their conversations, so maybe she's the one who did it. But then I kind of was thinking, well, what if it was the start of the Scourge of the Underworld storyline? You know, the guy who would go around shooting up villains and shouting, "Justice is served." I think got wrapped up in the Captain America comics. But this seems a bit early for that, so that probably isn't that, and maybe it is that woman. Really, it's just not that clear. I guess we'll have to wait to see if this gets revealed, although I don't believe it does. But meanwhile, hey, Cap doesn't have his Star Scepter, so, you know, things are just willy-nilly all over the place. And what about Arcade? Well, he takes his defeat in stride and vows to rebuild and get Spider-Man back for a rematch because he knows, as we know, Spidey was the one who really defeated Arcade and his murder world. So I'm Kevin, and that was my commentary on a really classic two-parter Marvel team-up. I think I always claim, I think this was my first Marvel team-up book. I really don't remember. I think I got the first issue, and then years later got the second one. It is really a classic one. Of course, Arcade comes back in the pages of the X-Men by none other than Claremont and Byrne, naturally. Arcade continues to pop up, and he was actually the main villain in a miniseries called Avengers Arena, which is around the year 2000 or so, maybe a little bit later. That was actually a pretty good little miniseries. He does seem to be a bit one-trick, so I'm not sure there's a lot more that could be done with him. But maybe with the right writer, he could have been or could be a significant villain. I don't know. Maybe not. What do you think? Leave a comment below on if you think Arcade is a good villain or just a joke. Maybe he could be a first act villain in a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie who gets captured early on, just for fun. Just to set up maybe the second or third act. So until next time, when Spidey meets up with yet another hero, I think you should go to a real arcade, if they still exist, pop a quarter or probably $1 into a pinball machine if they still exist, and have a great day, and I'll see ya.